Hi, I'm Laura Marwood, Product Strategist for Cloud ERP, and today I am joined by Cloud ERP thought leader Paul Saunders. Welcome back, Paul.
Thank you, Laura. Good to be here.
Great. So today we're going to be talking about two-tier ERP. Now, let's start with an easy one. In layman's terms, Paul, what do we mean by two-tier ERP?
Yeah. So in layman's terms, think about a business that has got sub-businesses. Mm-hmm. At the top tier is maybe your corporate business or the largest business, the parent business. And then you may have sub-businesses underneath that might do things that are somewhat the same, but some things that are different. That second tier then would maybe use a different set of processes, different technologies, and so on.
So we're maybe talking about mergers and acquisitions, that sort of...
It's very, very applicable to mergers and acquisitions. One of the things when any company has been acquired, or been merged, I suppose, is to be able to get value out of that company as quick as possible. Also, when it comes to divestitures, to be able to carve off a piece of the business.
Got it. So we'll come to talk about the technological piece, Paul, when we talk about two-tier. But first, let's maybe go back in time a little bit and look at ERP from a historical and cultural perspective. How is it that we've got to the two-tier ERP conversation?
Yeah, well, we've got here through some tough learnings, I would say. Mm-hmm. If you go back in time through history, what we've tried to do with ERP is to standardize everything for everyone, which it was never a good idea. And so if I think about it from my past, I was within a very large multi-tiered company for many years in the United States. And for many of the years, I was at the top tier, so the corporate layer. And then for, another 5 or 6 years, I was CIO within some of those businesses. And a company would love to be an all-encompassing company where everybody thinks the same and does things the same and so on. But we know that as you grow through mergers and acquisitions particularly, but also organically, processes start to vary, and you find that over time you end up with multiple different ways of doing different things. Trying to get that down to one single way that everybody within all of the businesses will do it the same doesn't make sense. You have to be able to say what makes sense for this company, for the parent company, and most importantly, for all of the companies together. So it's a cultural approach as much as it is a technology approach.
So how is a two-tier ERP strategy potentially a solution to some of these cultural problems?
Well, I think that the two-tier ERP will always support a company to be able to have different parts of the business work at different paces and achieve different ends, while still acting as a single company. So, what you have to do with two-tier ERP is you have to think about it from both tiers. You cannot approach it from a single tier. And this is what happens normally culturally. So the first business, let's say they were acquired, they will say, well, you acquired us for a reason because we're particularly good at doing this. And now you're giving us your corporate view of things and we're going to standardize this and we're going to standardize that. You're taking away our autonomy. You're taking away what made us good. That often turns into a proxy battle for technology. So if the corporate tier is using vendor A, the company that's been acquired would love to use anything but vendor A, because then I can maintain my own little bit of autonomy. Then if you look at the first tier, they're saying, look, we've acquired this company. We have no idea what they're doing down there. We've got no insights. Are they making the right decisions? Are they investing their cash wisely? Do they have, the best processes they can have? We can't see that. So we want to impose our stuff on them. And so then you get this battle.
And Paul, we have a couple of different deployment options within SAP S/4HANA. What deployment option might be typically suitable for a respective tier? How do we make that decision?
Well, we don't make the decision. It's always us and the customer and our partners together that will help to make that decision. I think what we see often, and the most common one, is S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition for the larger, more complicated, maybe parent company, and then S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition for the smaller subsidiary or individual business. That's the most common approach, because the smaller business doesn't necessarily need all of the complexity and all of the the flexibility that they would get with a private cloud solution. They want to be able to get up and running fast. They want to be able to do things much better. Mm-hmm. Whereas the parent company wants to be able to have all that flexibility to do whatever they need to do, to manage all these complex processes, but they also want to be able to make sure that they've got this relationship with the subsidiary, so it's not just kind of a company that's left to their own devices.
Okay, got it. But am I right in understanding that that's not a set approach and that there is some flexibility in...
Absolutely. And even with two-tier, what we mean by two-tier will vary a lot. So you might say, well, what is it that we actually want to share? Is it just finance? Are we just looking to have a standard chart of accounts so everybody kind of does things the same way? Are we even maybe just trying to do a roll-up of our financials so we can kind of get a better insight? It might be that you acquired a company, in some sort of vertical integration kind of strategy, and you want to start to be able to bring that what that company makes into your larger companies for a supplement. So maybe you bought a supplier, and that supplier is now part of your company. You want to bring that stuff in. Maybe it's a horizontal strategy. So you want to say, all of us use the same component. So let's see if we can source it the same way. Maybe we can do all of our procurement the same way. Maybe we can rationalize our vendors. There's a lot of things that are played. The two-tier is the overarching view of things, but it's making sure that it works for that particular company and its subsidiaries.
It's really interesting, Paul. I know you speak to a lot of customers. Can you maybe share a few details about a two-tier use case that we're currently working on at SAP with a customer?
For example, we've got a customer right now, a very, very large manufacturing company with global operations. Mm-hmm. And they're not really a traditional kind of tier one, parent company, tier two subsidiaries. So they've got private cloud normally at their corporate layer. They do have some private cloud at some of their other subsidiaries, and a lot of public cloud for their companies that they're trying to bring up to get up and running fast. We've also got another customer that is doing a rationalization of their portfolio, and so they're looking to spin off some of their businesses. Whether they sell them or spin them off and maintain them is up, to be seen. But bringing them and putting them into that smaller company into a public cloud solution. So it's nice and encapsulated, but there's still this kind of, I guess you could say, umbilical cord or link between the parent and the child that keeps these things together.
And since we're talking a little bit about the different deployment options, why is it that the child company would, let's say, in most cases, benefit from a public cloud edition deployment option?
I would say it's normally the most common, because we see that most companies that have been acquired are normally smaller than the company that's done the acquire. I mean, if you get a company that's like an equal merger, then it can be a very, very different thing. But that smaller company, so you want to bring them up and get value out of them as soon as you possibly can. But you also want to be able to leverage those economies of scale. So if I can get the same solutions from the same vendor, so I can buy this from SAP and this from SAP, that's great. If I can use the talent within my organization, so I've got, SAP S/4HANA talent at my parent company, I can then deploy them to my subsidiaries, and I can keep my talent flowing across the organization. That's really, really good. Mm-hmm. But for the subsidiary company, the thing that's beautiful about S/4HANA Cloud is you can get up and running very, very quickly. And even more importantly than that, you can get value much quicker. And it doesn't mean that it's one's good and one's bad, or one's right or one's wrong. It's about two separate products that are kind of at each end of the spectrum. And where we come in as SAP is to kind of help guide to say, where do you best fit?
Yep. Paul, this has been a great conversation. Thank you very much for speaking to us today.
Thank you, Laura. Again, absolutely lovely.